The United States is a nation founded on the principles of liberty, democracy, and unity. Yet history has shown that no empire or nation is invincible. While external threats like terrorism or global conflict often come to mind, the most significant dangers to the United States may come from within. In this video, we'll delve deep into 12 ways the USA could destroy itself and explore how these issues, if left unaddressed, could unravel the fabric of the nation. 1. Political polarization. The United States has grown more politically divided than ever before, with Republicans and Democrats increasingly viewing one another as existential threats to the country. This polarization isn't just about ideological differences, it's creating an us versus them mentality. Political scientists warn that this division erodes trust in democratic institutions, undermines the ability to compromise, and leads to gridlock in governance. Polls indicate that many Americans believe another civil war could be inevitable. Historically, extreme political division has led to conflicts within other nations. The inability to find common ground on critical issues like healthcare, education, and climate change could leave the country paralyzed, unable to address major crises. 2. The rise of secession movements. Throughout its history, the United States has faced calls for secession, from the Civil War to more recent movements in states like California, Texas, and Hawaii. These movements are often driven by political, cultural, or economic grievances. For instance, California boasts the 5th largest economy in the world and has debated whether its liberal policies align with the rest of the country. Similarly, Texas, with its oil reserves and independent spirit, has flirted with the idea of Texit. These movements, while unlikely to succeed today, highlight deep divisions within the nation. If one state were to successfully secede, it could set a dangerous precedent, leading to a cascade of breakaway attempts. 3. Erosion of trust in institutions. Trust is the glue that holds a society together, but in the U.S., trust in government, media, and institutions is at an all-time low. According to surveys, only 20% of Americans trust the federal government to act in the nation's best interest. This distrust makes it difficult for leaders to govern effectively or for citizens to unite behind collective goals. It also creates fertile ground for conspiracy theories and extremist movements, which can destabilize society further. Without trust, the social contract that binds citizens to their government begins to break down. 4. Economic inequality. The United States is home to staggering wealth, but that wealth is not evenly distributed. The top 1% of Americans control nearly 40% of the country's wealth, while millions of people live paycheck to paycheck. Economic inequality isn't just a moral issue, it's a destabilizing force. When the gap between the rich and the poor becomes too wide, it leads to social unrest, higher crime rates, and reduced economic mobility. History shows that extreme inequality has been a precursor to revolutions in other nations. Moreover, the rising costs of housing, education, and healthcare are putting additional pressure on the middle class, creating a sense of hopelessness and resentment that could further divide the country. 5. Unsustainable national debt. The national debt of the United States has surpassed $33 trillion, and it's growing every day. While debt isn't inherently bad, unsustainable levels can lead to economic collapse. As the government continues to borrow to fund programs, interest payments on the debt consume a larger portion of the federal budget. If foreign investors lose confidence in the U.S. economy, it could trigger a financial crisis. Such a collapse would have devastating consequences for both the domestic and global economies. 6. Declining global influence. The United States has long been a global leader, but its dominance is being challenged. Rising powers like China and Russia are working to expand their influence, often at the expense of American interests. Inconsistent foreign policies and military overreach have also tarnished America's reputation. Allies may begin to question whether the U.S. can be relied upon, leading to weaker alliances and less cooperation on global issues. If the U.S. loses its position as a world leader, it could face economic isolation and reduced security. 7. Climate change and environmental crises. Climate change poses one of the greatest threats to the United States. Rising sea levels, extreme weather events, and resource scarcity are already causing billions of dollars in damage annually. States like Florida and Louisiana face the risk of losing significant portions of their land to rising seas, while wildfires in the West are becoming more destructive. These environmental disasters disproportionately impact vulnerable communities, exacerbating social and economic inequalities. If the U.S. fails to address climate change with bold action, it will not only suffer environmental consequences, but also risk becoming a global pariah as other nations move toward renewable energy and sustainable practices. 8. A broken education system. The American education system is facing a crisis. Despite spending more on education than most developed nations, the U.S. lags in key areas like math, science, and literacy. This failure has long-term consequences. An uneducated population struggles to compete in a global economy, innovate, or make informed decisions as citizens. Moreover, disparities in educational outcomes between wealthy and poor districts reinforce economic inequality, creating a cycle of poverty that's difficult to break. 9. Cybersecurity vulnerabilities. In today's digital age, cybersecurity is a critical issue. From ransomware attacks on hospitals to breaches of government databases, the U.S. faces constant threats in cyberspace. A large-scale cyber attack could cripple critical infrastructure like power grids, water supplies, or financial systems. Such an event would cause chaos, disrupt daily life, and potentially lead to widespread panic. With adversaries like China and Russia investing heavily in cyber capabilities, the U.S. must prioritize strengthening its digital defenses. 10. Healthcare inequality. The United States has one of the most expensive healthcare systems in the world, yet millions of Americans remain uninsured or underinsured. Medical debt is a leading cause of bankruptcy, and healthcare outcomes in the U.S. often lag behind those of other developed nations. A broken healthcare system not only affects individuals, but also creates a public health risk. During a pandemic, for example, uninsured individuals may avoid seeking treatment, leading to the spread of disease. Addressing these disparities is essential to ensuring the health and stability of the nation. 11. Social media's role in division. Social media platforms have transformed the way we communicate, but they've also become tools for spreading misinformation and division. Algorithms designed to maximize engagement often amplify sensational or inflammatory content, creating echo chambers that reinforce biases. This digital landscape makes it easier for conspiracy theories and extremist ideologies to spread. The result? A more divided, distrustful, and polarized society. Social media's role in shaping public opinion and influencing elections cannot be underestimated. 12. Forgetting historical lessons. Finally, one of the most significant threats to the United States is the failure to learn from history. From the Civil War to the Great Depression, the U.S. has faced and overcome immense challenges. Yet, as time passes, the lessons from these events risk being forgotten. For example, the divisive rhetoric and political violence seen today echo the conditions that led to the Civil War. Ignoring these historical parallels could lead to repeating the same mistakes, with potentially catastrophic consequences. The United States has overcome countless challenges throughout its history, from wars to economic crises. But the threats we've discussed today are largely internal, and they require collective action to address. The good news is that the U.S. has the resources, talent, and resilience to tackle these issues. By recognizing and addressing these threats head-on, the nation can chart a course toward unity, progress, and renewal. What do you think is the most pressing challenge facing the United States today? Let us know in the comments.